Okay, Levi. So we got a few questions I want to talk to you about on your observation of me. Some
Sure.
it's interesting things I was kind of thinking about. So what stood out to you most during the lesson that I was giving on that day you're observing?
So, in the realm of you being like the master teacher I was observing, I paid a lot of attention to the inefficiencies of my own rehearsal and like how I could streamline the rehearsal itself. Because if I do that, everything matriculating past it gets better. Like if I set the students up in their seats better, if they know exactly when they're going to come in, if I make sure they're on time, which is different, aka when you have a class set for them or when they're coming from classes to one's point. So that'll be something I talk about with my students. But what I really focused on was how is the like what are the stages of the rehearsal, and then how well you were able to completely, well, I guess, machine so much your students into that process, which seemed to work really, really well, ironically, in art.
Awesome. Yeah. So then, what strategies did you notice me using to manage student behavior?
Well, for one, to make sure they were there, you had the QR codes that make sense with like the binders. They just showed up, I'm here, blah, blah, blah. They sit down, they grab their stand, they grab their music, they open up their instrument, they're practicing. And it was, well, it was one clap. And then all of a sudden, everything stopped. They were on you like you wouldn't believe. And I was like, oh, whoa. Okay, they know this. They know like it's time to work. Like you spend the time, you got that much time. If you didn't practice what you did last night, you better hope that you got it right at that time. So they were ready to go right then, basically. So it's pretty cool.
Gotcha. So how did I transition between activities, and what did you think of that approach?
Well, the warm up, let's say, so that transition, that's like what I said, is they were practicing, right? Well, let's pick another spot because I kind of talked about that already. So let's do in between pieces. I think one of the pieces that you were working on was locomotive.
Yeah.
Locomotive was one of the ones that you were having a difficulty with, and it seemed to be boiled down to like, did they spend their own time? Like, it's one thing to go note by note with students, but like, they're in middle school, they understand they have priorities, and so you said, you like challenged them. And in between the transitions, you're like, do you guys want to play this? Put it away. Figure it out at home. And I was like, oh, wow, that was the fastest transition. You're like, what were the other songs you guys wanted to play? And then they said songs, you put it up. You're like, okay, so they know exactly if they want to play it, it's up to them.
Yep.
And the transition was, I'm gonna leave it up to you. And it was a challenge at the same time. So I thought it went pretty well.
Awesome. So then, what did you observe about how I differentiated from different learners? Did I do that? Did I differentiate from different learners? I can't.
Well,
I don't remember.
I think so here's how I approach it in my class, which I think is somewhat uniform to most music classrooms, is the accessibility for a student who might not have the modality to read it on the page, for you to take it off of the page and play like, okay, well, what's the rhythm? And then you like talk it through with them, and then you had someone play it for them. That immediately becomes accessible off of the page
Right.
for the other student, because you had them play it when they weren't getting it, and so they go, oh, that's the rhythm, at least I can get it one way, and then they connect with the page again. So I think there's a couple different ways you could have done that.
So I do that. I just forget I just don't put a fancy name on it.
It's just it's just part of normal teaching.
Right. Gotcha. Let's see. What would you say the main learning goal of the lesson, based on what you saw?
Well, I mean, you guys are getting concert music ready, and it was the point of it's always to learn music, right? It's always to learn music, but from what I grafted from it, which I think is more valuable than just spoon feeding them notes, was you have an accountability to us as a band, and we go on stage. It's not just you.
Yep.
And the fact that you said, okay, it's up to you now. It's you want to play this song, which let me tell you, it was probably their most favorite.
Well, and they picked it too.
Like,
they picked
they
it.
wanted to play it, and
Yeah.
you were like, it's up to you.
Yeah.
That was probably the thing that I grafted the most, was like, yeah, I can spoon feed y'all notes all day, but like, if you really care about this, and I think that's what you instilled in them, they were going to pick it up.
And one of the things that was missing from my teaching, I think a lot of the year, and it just dawned on me towards the end, was have them listen more. and have them actually use the recording and play along with it. I think a lot of them play at home by themselves, and they get bored because it's boring.
Yeah.
And when you have something to play with, it's like, well, this is a lot easier to. And you know, with YouTube, it's easy to slow it down and make it so you can put your fingers on it and then speed it up to tempo and do all the
That's
things.
true. 100%. I didn't even think about using the speed function on the YouTube video. That's incredible. Because they can still get the beat from it. It's just really slowed
Right.
down.
Right.
You know,
And they
that's
can get their
cool.
fingers on it and get their, get their playing on it. And it's amazing how that works. And you know what? It doesn't change the pitch either. It stays right on pitch.
You know what's funny? I thought it was, I've slowed it down myself in like people talking, and I'm like, it doesn't sound, like it sounds slow, but it doesn't change the voices,
Right.
and that's incredible. You're right, 100%. Super weird. Super weird. That's some wizardry I don't understand.
So we'll keep working. See, that's another thing. Let's see. Was there anything you would have done differently and why?
Yeah, I would have him play better. I'm just kidding.
Well, I was working. If you heard him now, you would hear that.
I'm just kidding.
No, it's good.
Honestly, if I'm being completely, I think, like a class itself is so personable. Are there things that I would do differently? Like thinking about the rehearsal? Honestly, I can't remember something. The things that I want to apply are the things that you were doing.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to change them in my class. This whole point I observed you. So at the moment, like recalling, the transitions were good. You were very strict with them in the sense of like it created an environment that they wanted to be in because they could play well and they were actually like part of something bigger than themselves, which is I think is half the battle of a music class. And I'm not so sure I would change anything, to be honest with you.
We always have things to work on. I bet if you went back and looked at it again, you'd say, yes, there is something I got.
Maybe I would spend less time being like, what did you guys choose? Maybe that.
Yeah,
Maybe that.
yeah.
But other than that, like that's sometimes the human connection that is the class.
Right.
And so like, I don't know.
All right, man. Well, I think that's all I've got. And thanks for your input. And I think next year I'm going to come and observe you, and we'll do this the other way around.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
All right, man. Thanks.
Yeah.